Simon O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I think there's been some really good contributions so far on part one, or rather those parts which are referring to part one. I've got a few questions of my own to the Minister, partly as someone who's relatively new to this Commerce Committee and trying to get my head around some of the context. And the first part really is around the whole date changes. So part one, particularly through the SOP, it better be clear actually to the House that while the SOP from the Minister recently tabled deals across parts 1, 2 and beyond, the main area being retentions is in part 2. So for me at the moment this is in part 1 around obviously the date, just to signal to the Minister where the thinking's going. The other is around the choices of definition of what's been included in contracts. And the third area that I'm interested in is around services and why certain ones have been excluded. If I might start though with the date. I see we have a dual split developing here in the SOP. Obviously, initially this was meant to be in November last year, but I think as a number of people have indicated, there's been some delays as we were making proper consideration of this. And I think particularly if we reflect on the arguments from the Statutes Amendment Bill yesterday, parties in this House want us to take the appropriate time to get things correct. So I'm interested to the Minister why we have a split coming through here in part 1. We have a commencement of section 8BC, which is meant to be in the 31st of March in 2016, so obviously that's very particular. But while the Minister is seeking that length of time for that clause, but is equally happy for the other parts to come into force in July this year, I suspect, Mr Chair, through you to the Minister, it's probably the nature of that particular clause needs a greater consideration, particularly of the industry, to deal with. The next part, really, because I'm sure we'll end up in a title and commencement debate later, is around the whole definition of what is construction. I note in the SOP, in what is section 6, seeking to amend that construction work should be defined as, design and engineering work carried out in New Zealand in respect of work of the kind referred to in previous sections. I'd be interested to know what particular elements of design were. I assume we're talking architectural, but does that stretch out as well? And in drafts people and so forth, what level of design required then? And then engineering, it probably sounds simple, but is that all people who use the title engineer? Or are we dealing with those who are particularly chartered to a recognised engineering profession? I think of just simply friends of mine who are qualified engineers working in the various fields, be it building, construction, mechanical and so forth. But equally I think of those that I've met.
Order.
Oh, sorry.
The time has come for me to report progress.
Oh, I thought you were going to pull me up.
And I will report progress on the bill.
Thank you, Mr Chair.
Not much.
Thank you.
Mr Speaker.
Mr Chair.
The committee has considered the Construction Contracts Amendment Bill and reports progress.
The question is that the report be adopted. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The bill will be set down for further consideration in committee next sitting day. The House stands adjourned until 2 p.m. on Tuesday the 17th of March. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.